Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you back to the Dynamic Decisions podcast, where we explore the strategies that drive successful decision making in the world of business. Why? Because the best decisions come from great conversations. I'm your host, Teasha Cable, CEO of C Model Data. And today we have a visionary in the world of AI, voice automation, and data and analytics. His name is Jay. He's currently the co-founder and CEO of VoicePlug AI. He's a serial entrepreneur with deep experience in building and scaling technology companies globally. Jay is also a member of the board of Azure Knowledge Corporation, which is a research and insights company. Jay, I'm super pumped to have you here today. So excited to talk to you. I'd love for you to tell us more about your company and more about you. So talk about VoicePlug AI.
Sure. Really excited to be here and chatting with you. VoicePlug is what we call a voice commerce company, a native AI company, a journey that we started about 3.5, 4 years ago, where we feel that voice as a human computing interface is going to have exponential growth and adoption. And we are specifically looking at businesses like restaurants that have high volume of conversational transactions. And so we enable these transactions by automating this through AI. So our AI agents, as we call them, would be at the drive-thru, over the phone, at kiosks. So when you want to place an order, reserve a table, the agents actually interact with you just naturally like how a staff would. And the benefits for the restaurant is that their staff can now handle the guests more effectively because the routine tasks are being taken care of by the AI. And so the AI really becomes the staff's assistant as well as gives the customer a much better experience, a personalized interaction. And so that's what VoicePlug does. Really excited to be building this. And as you know, AI is changing very fast. So we are also learning along the way.
So here you are in this industry that has historically been resistant to technology adoption. Yet they now have labor shortages and rising operational costs, and all of these things demand automation. When you're working with a multi-unit franchise owner who's skeptical about AI after maybe having failed technology implementations, how do you navigate the tension between their legit concerns and the urgent need to evolve? Are there any decision-making moments that have taught you how to bridge that credibility gap?
So one approach that we take is a customer pain first approach. And so, really the framework for this is that before any decisions, how do you ask the three specific questions? What customer pain does this solve? Can we measure the pain relief in some form that's being provided by the AI or by the technology? And what will customers pay to eliminate this pain? Right. So that's the kind of strategic framework. And, like, for example, in VoicePlug, we are looking at when we were talking to restaurants, we realized that they talked about the pain of losing customers or customers not being addressed because their staff was busy. No one was picking up the phones, or the customer was coming at the drive-thru and was seeing a long queue and they were losing these opportunities on the table. And so we said, this is a real pain that we need to solve for, and which will give a direct revenue impact to the customer. And so the way we look at it is, how do we create some kind of a score of what is the most pronounced pain and then address it through technology. The other piece to this is also that there is a trade-off between integration, complexity, and adoption speed. And a lot of times, you start building products thinking that I want this to be perfect the very first time. Whereas, in today's world, in an AI-driven world, it need not be perfect the first time out of the gate, but it is as AI as a model is, it keeps learning and getting better. So you want it to be good enough to solve for a great extent of the pain, and then have enough learning built into it so that it gets better over a period of time. So, look at it as what is it that will really help get customer feedback in the first 30 to 60 days and not wait for 6 or 12 months before you have a full rollout. So that's the other piece which we look at. And then there is this whole pilot to either scale or kill. So that framework really allows us to, as we are implementing new features or new products, we look at what are the key metrics that we need to measure. So customer adoption rate, what are the unit economics improvement, and what is the scalability to operations because of what we are doing. And either it is good enough where we can decide to scale based on the metrics we are seeing, or we have clear understanding that if this does not work in a certain time period, we basically kill that product, that feature, because customer really should dictate what they want. And if you build something where you don't see the adoption, you don't see the improvement in unit economics or the revenue uplift for your customer, then do not have any ego about continuing with it, and hence have the end game in mind in terms of how long will you allow this to continue to be measured, and either at the end of it decide to scale or kill it.
So that leads me into this place. So one of the things I was looking at when I was looking at your company was just the market that you're in general. So AI in these high pressure environments like drive-throughs and phone ordering, it faces unique challenges. You got background noise and accent variation, complex customizations. You end up with an angry customer. When you are making, or when the thing just makes mistakes and it gets the information wrong on the order, and then people get mad about it, how do you actually make decisions about the trade-off between automation speed and accuracy? And maybe give us a specific moment where you had to recalibrate your approach because the tech wasn't yet ready for the particular use case. And it may not be just what VoicePlug, it could be any situation that you've had.
Of course. Uh, so the model that I think most companies are moving towards is a human and AI coexisting together and solving for the particular problem or the workflow. And it's very important to think through where the human AI handoff will happen. So to give you an example, our at VoicePlug, we have built a domain, very clear, precise domain language model for restaurants. And so this is our proprietary model, works really well for restaurant specific conversations. And so we get about 95% accuracy on conversations there. Now, there is a long tail of customers who will still speak something which the AI has not yet learned. There's always some new experience. There's always some new context when people are coming at the drive-through or speaking to an AI.
Or
And
just
so,
living and breathing. Yeah.
yeah,
Because it's
exactly.
people.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We have those examples. Like I'll tell you, just last week we had, someone near the drive-through come up with a blower, and they were cleaning the premise close to the drive-through, but there was so much noise at the drive-through that it completely changed the context for the AI. So you always have these new, context situations emerging. And so what we do is then for those situations, we have the human in the loop step in. It could be someone from our end, what we call our AI support team, or it could be someone at the store that realizes that, okay, this is a situation where AI needs help. A lot of times the AI will understand that I cannot handle this because this is a new situation. I've not come across this before. And we have trained the AI to specifically not hallucinate or make up things if it doesn't know. So it is very clearly trained to do things that it is supposed to do in a certain box. And so those are the cases where it would say, let me hand off to a team member who will help you with this situation further. So defining those boundaries is very important. And I think the continuous learning operations is also something that in an AI-driven world has to be there. So you improve with every single customer interaction, and you also want to use the data. We have a portal that we call the conversational intelligence portal that we provide to customers, because we want them to get real data about how the customers are ordering. And there are modifications, for example, that our customers have done to their menu based on customers asking for a certain item which they just took off the menu, and now there have been 31 guests that have asked for it in the last 24 hours. And they realize, oh gosh, I need to bring this back because there's so much demand for this. And so there have been these data points that they haven't been really getting. But because of now the AI and that conversational intelligence being in place, we are able to offer that. And so that continuous learning, continuous improvement is something that restaurants really benefit from. We've seen, like with VoicePlug, there is a uplift in revenue because now more orders are being taken, but also because the AI upsells. So the AI is able to offer personalized conversations, is able to say, hey, Teasha, welcome back. Would you like to repeat your last order or your favorite order? And today, no one at the drive-through recognizes you or
That's
remembers
right.
your conversation.
That's
So
fascinating.
love that experience. They just
Right.
love it that, they are being
Yeah.
offered something that,
This might actually be a big jump for omni-channel. It's going to
yeah,
be a huge increase to make that actually work
yeah,
as
yeah.
it's intended, including in restaurant and drive-through type spaces where you might not have been able to get the full value of that because someone's not sitting in front of the computer. That's really good. I like that. So let me ask you this. So you've scaled these businesses across multiple geographies: the US, the UK, Canada, Australia. Cultural expectations around conversational AI, they really do vary dramatically by region. When you're making product level decisions that need to serve diverse markets, how do you avoid the trap of building for the lowest common denominator while still maintaining a super unified platform? Are there any insights that you have from your experience that really inform how you think about localization versus standardization?
I think it's a great question because we see, as we look at technology products that have been successful, very few really are able to scale beyond geographical boundaries because they sometimes miss certain key elements of the localization. And so I have learned this, across the three ventures, including VoicePlug that I've been a part of in the founding team. We, one aspect of this is, when designing the product, while you design it for a particular market, you need to think through what the scalability will be like. If you're building something which you think is meant for the North American market, that's fine. There could be a large enough market, and you could start with just building for one piece of the market, but have the vision for what this could scale to. So will this become a global product? Will it span across regions and cultures and so on? And
Mhm.
so with VoicePlug also, we feel that AI, in the way it is being adopted by restaurants across the globe, we will have variations, but the core piece of the product has to serve multiple cultures, multiple geographies. And there's a big variance in the way people order food in different geographies. There are parts of the world where people don't even call anymore to place an order. Drive-throughs are very popular in the US, but not necessarily popular in many geographies. There are multiple languages in several geographies that we have to cater to. Currently, VoicePlug, the product we have designed, we have made it language agnostic, considering the
Mm.
future scalability. So we said, we can't build this on an English language model because at the core, if the language is English, then every time a French, a Spanish, an Asian customer is interacting with that, you are having that language being translated to English and then English translated back. And in conversation, when you're translating back and forth, you miss some nuances, which can result in poor customer experience. So hence we decided not to use a English LLM or something that is out of the box, but we said we will build our own domain language model where the AI only understands restaurant terminology, regardless of the language. And that really got us to build the core piece of our natural language understanding model. And so what happens now is then when we have to add Spanish, for example, a lot of restaurants that we serve have customers that speak English and Spanish. And customers don't like that they have to choose the language upfront. Like we see in a lot of cases, would you like to speak in English or Spanish? And then you have to choose one of the two. Here,
Right. Yeah. When you make those phone calls, right.
we see
Yeah.
that. But with our AI, you don't have to make that choice. You could start with English, you could switch to Spanish, or you could speak Spanglish, where you have some
You
Spanish
got
words
an in between. That's
and
good.
the AI
Yeah.
understands that. Customers love it
Yeah.
because it understands those local cultural contexts, and that's very
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
I
So
think it is. And
you
I think it's also a lever for growth. So what you just did was set up really the most important lever for growth. So my technology wasn't built in a way that will then limit me from what my expansion is. But what you also didn't say was that I need to go in and specialize in this language, that, like, I don't need to do that because that could stunt my growth as well, right? So you just made these decisions are really important, guys. This was why I brought it up, right? These are those little things that determine whether or not your company goes fast or whether or not it goes slow, right? And it might look this way for an AI company, it could be something different in another organization, but we have to think about all the elements that make up how my company will ultimately take a repeatable step. So that's a really good one, really great example.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
I wanted to add one more thing. When even looking at conversations, how people there's a whole science on how people converse with humans versus technology, and this also
mhm.
differs from culture to culture. So when we are designing these conversational systems, one of the things that we also do is that we not only have the language included, but we take real recordings of how people interact with technology systems in that culture or with humans in that culture, and then the AI learns from that. So when we are releasing our solution in France, say, we know that it's not just the French language, but the sequence of conversations that a customer would have, or the expectation of how the AI would respond, is very different than what it is in the US. And so those cultural nuances in conversations are also being learned by the AI and implemented it, based on the geography where the solution is deployed.
So, in a similar kind of vein, I want to ask you this question. In thinking about the human impact, but I want to flip to like the labor sort of side of it. When you're thinking about which customer touch points to automate with AI, how do you balance the economic imperative to reduce labor costs with the experiential cost of removing a human from the situation? Are there any particular principles that, as you guys are building your company, where you know that AI is going to enhance, or where you know that the human replacement begins? I guess maybe if I ask a little bit more clearly, what principles actually guide you in determining where AI enhancement ends and human replacement begins? And maybe you can answer that, but maybe the answer is that the distinction doesn't even matter in real practice. But I'd love to just get your thoughts, because here you are on the forefront of building something that definitely impacts the human worker.
So, as a first principle, we look at AI should replace the repetitive tasks, the drudgery, and
Yeah.
not the trust. So, when customers walk into a restaurant and expect the best of service, you know, in a non AI scenario, what happens? I mean, we have all faced this: is that they are multitasking. They're handling phone conversations, taking phone orders. They're having the headset on because they're talking to someone at the drive-through, and then the guest experience is compromised. And so someone walking into the restaurant has to wait. There's a long queue because the staff is busy doing other things. And so if you take the repetitive tasks away from them, you are now empowering them to do the job that they can do best, which is, servicing guests, taking good care of them, remembering that their glass of wine needs to be refilled, which, these are things that are missed today in a typical restaurant. And so that's kind of the first principle that we look at. Then we also look at to what extent is that activity requiring a human touch. And there are certain things where even if AI can do the job, we just like the personalized touch. Like, for example, we had the option to, in a full service restaurant, to roll out our AI at the table, and where guests could actually order from a tablet using voice. We had a lot of discussions around this, and we said, would guests who are coming to a full service restaurant and for the experience really like to interact with the technology or with a staff that is not distracted? What we did there is, instead of the AI taking the order, we now have the AI available on the tablet of the server, and the server is maintaining eye contact with the guest, not looking down, because the AI is already transcribing what the guests are saying. So now it is actually helping the staff to deliver a much better experience, which they wouldn't have been able to without the AI assisting them. That's how you look at what are the ways that AI can make the job of the staff, the server, easier and have them feel more empowered. So in 100% of the cases, a lot of times people talk about, is AI going to replace jobs? And in 100% of the cases, we have seen all restaurants where we have implemented AI, the staff actually loves it. They have no fear that jobs are being taken away, because one is, in restaurants, there is a shortage of labor in general, right? And so they are already doing a lot of tasks. There's high attrition. It takes a toll on a staff working in a restaurant doing all these tasks. So
what else it does? What else it does is what C Model is here to do. I say this because the idea is that you are taking, and you just gave this perfect example of how these people even become more strategic. Because the minute that I'm using my human perspective to determine how this person needs to be served in order to feel great, in order to buy more, sit longer, buy more drinks, do more stuff, whatever it is that's going, buy more hamburgers, whatever's happening in that restaurant, come back to the drive-through more often. All of a sudden, you've just bumped up growth. And I've also just laid out a way for each one of these individuals who I've hired to become more strategic for my business, that's the future of those roles, is they're actually going to grow and develop. They're going to hone in new skills. So I completely see it. I love how you drawn this out really for the audience to say, this is really the use case for artificial intelligence. And maybe because the restaurant industry is narrow, it's easier to understand. So I think our audience will get a ton of value from just hearing you explain these details about what's happening for the worker. They're not being replaced. They're being enhanced, right? They're being made faster, better quality experiences for the people who you need to invest in your business, right? So this is really, really good. Thank you for sharing all of that. I want to get to our final segment. It's called the decision-making persona assessment. Are you ready? So we're going to explore your decision-making style through our persona assessment. I'm going to present to you 4 different approaches to complex AI and business decisions. And after each one, you're going to tell me how much the way that I'm questioning resonates with how you will actually use a decision-making process. You have a scale of 0 to 100% to tell me after each one. Okay. But the thing is, you only have 100% total across all 4. Make sense?
Okay. All right.
So the first one is called the feeler. It's a values driven leader. So, this persona prioritizes alignment with core mission and considers the human impact of AI implementation on restaurant workers, customers, and business owners. When considering a new AI capability for a client implementation, I ask myself, beyond the technical metrics and revenue potential, what are the human consequences of this automation? If we deploy voice AI that handles 80% of calls perfectly but fails catastrophically on complex orders, are we creating better customer experiences or just cost shifting frustration from restaurant staff to customers? Are we helping restaurant owners build sustainable businesses or are we contributing to a race to the bottom where technology vendors extract value while operators struggle? When we automate order taking roles, what responsibility do we have to the workers whose jobs we might be eliminating? Even when investors push for rapid deployment and market capture, I need to feel confident that we're building technology that genuinely improves the restaurant ecosystem, not just optimizes for our own growth metrics. So, Jay, how much does approaching major AI decisions through human impact and ecosystem responsibility, how does that lens line up for you?
I would say out of 100%, probably a third of this would factor in my decision making.
Okay, here's the next one. The planner is a strategic visionary. This persona thinks in technology cycles and market evolution, anticipating how today's decisions will position the company across multiple possible futures. So, when making strategic decisions about our AI platform or go to market approach, I ask myself, how will this choice position us as voice AI commoditizes and the competitive landscape shifts in unpredictable ways? If large language models become dramatically cheaper and every restaurant POS system integrates basic voice AI, will our current differentiation hold or will we be competing purely on price? As younger digitally native consumers become the dominant customer base with different expectations around AI interaction, are we building experiences that'll resonate or feel dated? I need to design strategies that create durable competitive advantages, whether through proprietary data, ecosystem lock in, or capabilities that compound over time, rather than just optimizing for today's market opportunity. What percentage of planner are you?
I would say this would be another third of the total 100. And I love how you created this personas. I mean, this is fantastic. I'm really loving this. I'm going to use this framework to also see what kind of decision makers we have in the organization and people around us.
Come on, and we actually have this assessment on our site too, if you're interested. I love that you just said that. Thank you. All right, here's the next one. It's called the counter. It's the challenger of assumptions. So this persona instinctively questions industry orthodoxies and conventional wisdom about implementations, especially restaurant technology. So when evaluating AI strategies and product roadmaps, I find myself asking, what fundamental assumptions about restaurant operations and customer behavior are we accepting that might be wrong or outdated? While everyone focuses on automating existing workflows like phone ordering and drive-throughs, are we missing opportunities to fundamentally reimagine how restaurants interact with customers? What if the goal shouldn't be to replicate human order taking with AI, but to create entirely new ordering experiences that humans couldn't deliver? What if restaurant operators' biggest problem isn't order accuracy or missed calls, but something deeper about their business model that voice AI could address if we thought differently? I tend to examine why certain approaches become industry standard and whether our unique position bridging data insights and AI automation allows us to see opportunities that pure play voice AI companies miss. Where do you stand on that one?
Can I hold on to that response till I hear the fourth ones? Because, we need a total of 100.
That's right. Mm-mm.
All right. This certainly lesser percentage, I would say, 15%.
So that is the counter is 15%. All right, here we go. You ready for the last one?
Yep.
Okay. This one is called the data driver. It's the evidence based decision maker. So this persona demands quantitative validation while recognizing that AI implementation success often depends on qualitative factors that resist measurement. Before committing to product directions, client implementations, or strategic initiatives, I ask myself, what specific metrics will definitively prove whether this AI deployment is creating real business value versus just automating for automation's sake? Beyond vanity metrics like call volume handled or average order time, what leading indicators, customer satisfaction scores, repeat ordering rates, staff turnover in stores with AI versus without, or unit economics improvement will give us unambiguous feedback on success. Yet, I also recognize that some of our most important impact, confidence restored in an operator who'd given up on technology, cultural shift in how staff view AI as a tool rather than a threat, or trust built through honest communication about limitations doesn't show up in dashboards. How do I build rigorous measurement frameworks while acknowledging that relationship quality and change management often determine whether technically sound AI implementations succeed or fail? How much of you resonates with that decision making style?
I think it is the balance. I think we are good with that. I think it's 18-19%. Yeah. But again, I love these personas, and I love the fact how you articulate all of these with examples. I think it's great. I really love the framework.
This is fantastic. Thank you so much for participating in that. I love for people to see all the different ways that decision making actually impacts a business and its ability to grow. And then what I love the most is that it's also a great way to talk to your team about how ideas can
Yeah.
come to life, right? So if your team understands that you're mostly going to be concerned with the impact of how that idea is going to impact your customers and them, then that'll give them a leg up on whether or not those ideas are successfully brought to life, right? Versus if they just bring you a bunch of data and stuff to tell you how that's going to improve certain without tying it to the outcome. So
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you so much for doing that. Here's my final thing. You've built successful businesses in data and analytics, and now you're working in AI automation. You also mentor the next generation of entrepreneurs at Northeastern. If you could share one counterintuitive insight about AI implementation and also the challenges on how industry currently approaches restaurant automation, what would it be?
Okay. Since I have to pick one, I'll pick this. The general mindset about AI is that it is too complex for me, if I'm non-technical, to delve into implementing it. And I need to be surrounded by technical people because it's a technology. And I think that's a myth. I think AI is for everyone. And
Absolutely.
the thing, we also educate restaurant operators and the staff and staff at all levels in the restaurant is that you don't need a technical consultant. You don't need your IT team to have you start benefiting from AI. And so that's what I would leave it for the audience to think through, that AI is actually democratized the application that it has for you, for individuals. And
Mhm.
it doesn't demand any preset learning or qualification. You can get started from scratch and be more powerful than the most sophisticated engineer or data scientist out there.
I think that's some great advice and really realistic. There's so many tools, there's so many ways for you to start thinking about how AI impacts your business. And no, you don't need a professional, but what I will say is that knowing why is mission critical. So I love that you gave some really great why examples here, Jay. Thank you so much for sharing this very thoughtful perspective on AI implementation, strategic decision making. And really, what I also heard was this concept of responsible technology leadership. So, really combining genuine consideration for the impact of what your services do with the ability for a company to think about how they might even use AI to grow is good, good stuff. Would you tell everybody where they can learn more about you and more about VoicePlug?
Yeah, voiceplug.ai is the website. We have some great experiences that you can get off the AI that we have built there. We also have YouTube videos, if you just search for VoicePlug on YouTube. And then you can find me on LinkedIn, Jay Ruparel. And I'm always believe in giving back. I've got a lot from my mentors and people who have contributed early in my life. So if you are an entrepreneur, a business person, anyone that's looking at any kind of guidance and experience share with respect to AI, I'm happy to answer any questions or help in your journey.
Fantastic. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, the best decisions come from great conversations. If this episode sparked any new thinking about how you approach AI implementation, technology leadership, and ecosystem responsibility, please do subscribe, rate, share it with your network. Keep the conversation going on social media using Dynamic Decisions Podcast. And until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep leading with purpose.